Hello, this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts with another video. Apologies for two things today. I'm still croaky. I can't shift this. I haven't got a cold or anything. It's just my voice that I lost about 8 weeks ago and it hasn't come back yet. And the other thing is, if you hear noises in the background, if you maybe have your headphones on, our pub is busy at the moment. Liverpool are playing Man United this afternoon, so you might hear some shouting, but I thought I'd get on with the filming anyhow. I have purchased these lovely stamps from Lawn Fawn 2 weeks ago when they were actually released. And I was really chuffed to find that there is a UK company, and I'm going to link to them below. They're called Bumbleberry, that actually have got US brands like Lawn Fawn and other brands for a very reasonable price, and saved me the hassle of having to order stuff from the USA, which I probably wouldn't have done in the first place. Because the problem with ordering from the USA, if you are in the UK, is that you have to pay taxes sometimes, and I didn't want to risk that. But I found this website and they're absolutely amazing. I got my delivery within 48 hours of purchasing, and I was really happy about this. These little mice, I can't show you the packaging and the other stamps because I actually have mislaid them, but never mind, I might add them at a later point if I can find them. I saw these in some release videos before they were actually released on YouTube, and I thought they were absolutely adorable. These are little mice that sew and embroider, and I thought they were so cute. And I try not to buy too many new things, but I could just not resist when I found these. So I stamped these 4 times. I haven't coloured these in completely yet, as you can see. And when I stamped them, I did them in my stamping platform, and I had them in the same position. So I just spread these out, the ones I wanted, and stamped them on this one. And then I just turned around my sheet and just stamped them again. And then I coloured them in. There are different ways you can do all this, but I find it easier to colour them in whilst they're still on a piece of paper. And I'm going to show you in a moment how you can quickly die cut these with the coordinating dies. Obviously you can fussy cut them if you wanted to. So I've got the coloured them in different colours, different shades. I have got blue tones here. I've got some pink and purple on this one, and this one's a turquoise and blue. And the pencils I've used for these, I used to colour in with alcohol markers, but I find them quite tricky actually, and sometimes, especially with the small images, it's quite tricky sometimes not to overdo it, not to have them too dark. And I recently saw some Calcut use these pencils here. They're the Black Widow pencils. So I treated myself to 2 boxes. I don't know how many different ones. I do at least 3 different collections, if not more. So I went for the spider one and the scorpion. Don't ask me why they have to have creepy crawlies on these packaging. It's sort of freaked me out a little bit to start with, but the pencils are really, really lovely. So I'll just quickly show you these. So they've got some amazing colours. So I went for, these are some sort of bold colours and almost like a rainbow selection. And the other one is a bit more muted and sort of natural colours. I used these the other days as well for colouring in flowers and garden, you know, like bushes and stuff like that. So I went for this collection here. But they are really nice. They are really soft, and they make colouring in such a breeze. So I'm really happy with purchasing these. So yeah, I want to show you how to die cut these without arranging your dies around all the images all the time. So I have already got a video on my channel, one of my first videos I did for multiple die cutting, but I just show you again for these today. What I need to do first is I need to take these apart with my pliers and remove all the little bits in between, and then I come back. So I'm nearly done with these, but I just thought I better stop and show you, just in case you're new to die cutting and you've got dies like these that you need to take apart. So ideally you've got one of these. These are some pliers that you can cut with. Mine are well worn because I used to use them for jewellery making. And what you do with these, you get as close to the connectors here as you can and just snip them off, ideally without snipping into the frame. With these little parts in between, sometimes that is quite tricky, but you want to get as close as you can. This one's already off. You can't see now, but I'm not cutting here, I'm just cutting here on that bit. So ideally that comes off there, and then I can cut the last bit off. Let me show you if I'm coming from underneath. I can actually bend this up a bit now, it comes off. Problem sometimes is when you sort of twist it off rather than cutting it off, sometimes you're left with these thorns and they can be quite harsh. So you can use your nail file on some of these. It really depends on how strong the metal is. You might have some metal nail file that might work a bit better, but you want to be sure that you don't cut your finger, and especially on the inside, sometimes these leave a mark on your die cut and you don't want that. So I'll see if I can tidy this up a bit more. Sometimes it's just the angle of the die itself and it's tricky to get to it, so I think I have to give up with this one. And then with this bit that I've just cut out, again I'm just using my pliers there to take these off. And all the little bits, make sure that end up in the bin, especially if you got pets, because you don't want anyone to step on these. And then I've got these left, so again I'm going to tidy this up and cut as close to the edge as I can. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these two panels apart, because I don't want to put this through the die cutting machine and then damage this by getting some imprints from my die cutting plate. So I really just want to put these through once, so that's all I need. So now I'm going to find my dies, and there we go, this way around obviously. I'm going to align them and I'm going to tape them. Let me just grab my tape. I'm using this removable Scotch tape for my die cutting. You could use washi tape, mint tape, I think is quite popular. And I'm going to align these, sure it's lined up on either side. I hope you can see this. And I'm putting the tape just on the outside, and this is important for when I'm die cutting. Don't really want anything, or at least not too much. The little bit here is okay. And I'm going to do this now with all my dies, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with them afterwards. So I have stuck these all down now. I sometimes just use half a strip. I just halve it and can put it on either side. So I stayed outside the dies and I've stuck these all well down. So that is now ready to go into the die cutting machine. So obviously different machines have got different sandwiches, so I just do mine. I've got the Sizzix fold away, sorry, Big Shot fold away, and this is just my normal sandwich for die cutting, and I'm just putting this through, just putting it through once. Sorry about the wobbling. And now, because I've only stuck the tape on the outside, these all fall out nicely. This one's just stuck a bit on there. That one, I think that's the nature of it. So I've got all these mice cut out now, but because I stamped all the others in the same position, because I did it on my stamping platform, I can now, without moving these, align these on here and can cut this all again. All I need to do is align this on the bottom, make sure I can see these through there, and then what I would do is just put some tape around here so the paper doesn't shift. So I'm just putting one piece there and one piece on the other side, Just checking again that they are aligned, because obviously if one's not aligned, the other ones aren't either. So just put this here, and then I can put it through again. So I'm keeping the top layer as a template, and because I've cut it out, the die itself is exposed and will cut through. I just take this off again then and can use it for the other two. And I shall do this off screen now. So I've just cut mine. I'd forgotten I have got very thick cardstock here, so you might have to use a shim and put this through again. So mine don't want to come out completely, so I'm just using one of my metal shims, or you can just use some paper, some more cardstock, and just put it on the top so it gives a bit more pressure, and then it should cut through properly. Okay, so I've cut all my mice out except for these, because I haven't coloured these in yet. I'm just keeping my template here for a later date with this, so I can cut these out after I've coloured them in. You have got, I think I mentioned that earlier, you've got another option if you wanted to. You could die cut out of white cardstock first, and then like this, and then you would put the shapes in again, the blank shapes, and then you, in your stamping platform, you can align the stamps and then stamp on the already die cut pieces. The reason why I'm not doing that is I find it then too fiddly to colour these in unless you put some sticky tape on the back, so I decided to colour these in first and then die cut them, but you can do it the other way around. I think I've seen Jennifer Maguire do that. Okay, the whole idea for this video was to show you how you can use critters like this without actually building a whole scene. Lawn Fawn have lovely videos on their site on how to do that, but I'm not one of them that sort of likes to have a busy background or create too much with these, and I thought about how you can use these. And I did get inspiration from the Lawn Fawn site, so I'm going to show you two versions today. For the first one, I have taken an A4 sheet. This is a 300 GSM, and I have cut this to, I've just taken the full length, which is 11, and I'm never good with these measures, but whatever an A4 card is in inches, and I have cut this down to 5 7/8. So when I halved this in the middle, I scored and folded it. This is now 5 7/8 by 5 7/8, so just under 6 inches, which works fine for me because I wanted to have a square card. Then in my stash, at first I was looking for just a square die, but then I found this and I thought this stitched theme would go lovely with the theme of the stamps. So I have cut from the strip that I cut off from the A4 sheet, I have cut 4 of these squares. Now there are two possible options here that you can do. Either you cut some pattern paper out of this, just stick it on and arrange the critters on the pattern cardstock. I actually thought this would cut a frame, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use another die, maybe even this one, maybe just a plain square. I'm going to cut this into a frame and put the pattern paper behind it, because I think these would actually be quite nice when they sit inside the frame rather than on the top. Or if you have them actually on the frame and you've got a bit of a raised bit to compare to the patterned paper in the background. So I have, for today's cards, I have picked these two lots. So one's the blue one and one's a pink one. So I'm going to look for some pink cardstock that has got a sort of fabric look to it. I can put in the background, and as I said, I'm going to cut all these out to make them into frames, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to arrange the mice on the card. When it comes to picking your pattern cardstock for the background, you want something that's not too busy and that doesn't take away from the little critters themselves. So I just wanted to show you this as an example. This is really lovely as a background and it looks a bit like fabric, but if you have the critter in front of it, can show you this, is just too busy and it doesn't work in the as a background. So I would go for something plainer in a pattern, and I have just found these as an example. These are from my recent paper hauls, so if you want to put look back to the videos, I'm going to put in the link below. You can see what I've bought. This is from the Katie Skilton paper pad, and these are from the Works, and I think these work really nice. So I've got the yellow here, very simple polka dots but all over the place, so that would work very nicely with this, and also it would work with the pink. So this, because this would really pop, I like this. And if you like it a bit more subtle, this has actually got like a linen texture, so that would work nicely as well. This is a very pale pink or even purple, and also this one would work with the purple in the dress. So play around a little bit, take your little frame and have a look what would actually work on the small scale, because sometimes patterns like these only work on the larger scale and not if you just cut out a little bit. So this is how you pick your pattern paper. Okay, so I've decided to go with this one for the pink dress, and I will keep the yellow for the other card to go with the blue. So all I need to do is I need to measure the inner of the frame and cut these just slightly bigger so I can glue them behind it. I just do that with my scissors. You can do it with your trimmer if you wanted to, because nobody will see the back. And I'll cut 4 of these and put them behind my frames. Okay, so I have glued my pattern paper on the back of the frames, and then I glued these frames down onto the cardstock. I spread them out evenly. I left a bit of space in the middle just in case these critters need to sit on the edge like this and go a bit in the middle. And I have left a bit of space at the bottom for the sentiment once my stamps resurface that I lost somewhere in the craft room. So now I'm going to arrange my critters on these frames here, and I want to pop them up with some foam pads just to give them a bit more dimension, but you could have them flat like this. Obviously they got a tiny bit of dimension anyway because of the frame, but not too much, but I want to give them a bit more. And it's just a question of just playing around a little bit, having a look where you want them. And I might actually not glue these down yet because I need to find my stamps, because you can actually stamp into the embroidery hoop. But I'm just going to play around a little bit now and see where I want these little critters to sit. And that's all you do for this card, just play around a little bit. Sorry, couldn't see there. And you can have things sitting on the frames here, or you can move them in, but it all gives a sort of a frame. Literally it gives these little critters a frame to sit on, and they're not lost on the card when you don't want to create a scene. And yeah, I think this would look good when I'm finished. Oh, there's one more spool here of ribbon. So as I said, I'll find where I set these down, and then I'll show you now how to create the second card. For the other card, I have cut an A4 sheet. This again is 300 GSM to 8 inches by 6 inches, and I've scored it in the middle at 4 and folded it to create a top folding card. And then the cutoff, I have cut, basically this is the whole length. I have cut these to, this is the 6 inches again, and I have cut them to 1.5 inches each. So I had a bit of a piece left over there, but you can choose any width you like as long as you've got the 6 inches in length. And then my pattern paper, I have cut this to, let me just think, again it's 6 inches long, so it's the same length as these, but I have cut a slither off, so this is just under 4 inches wide because I don't want it to show on the top. So, and I'm just going to adhere this on the card front, and then I'm going to pop these up on some foam pads or strips, and because I want these to sit on the a bit raised, sorry, on the front here. And on the top and the bottom, and you can see you can decide which width you wanted for these, whether you wanted them slimmer. I also want a sentiment on this, so I will just stick this down after I've stamped it, which is always easier. And then all you need to do, I'll tell you now what I'm going to do, is just arrange these along the panel here, and they pop very nicely in the front. You can also, if you want just a small strip of patterned paper to look through, you can actually arrange them if the critters allow that in height, to glue them on the top and the bottom, but I will just glue mine down here. And again, as before, you can just play around with it, see where you arrange things and which parts you actually do use. I might not need all the mice along this width. And as before, I'm going to show you this card when I've actually finished it, so which means I have to find my stamps first. I hope I'm not the only one this happens to. I've mislaid it because I have been cleaning and tidying my craft room, so I'm coming back hopefully soon with the 2 finished cards. Ta-da! Only took me 2 minutes after I had a thought where I put them. I put them in a drawer where they didn't belong. So this is the stamp set, and yeah, so you can see they've got loads of sentiments, and I've got these little stitched elements that can go on the embroidery hoop. So I shall do that now, decide on the sentiments, putting one on this and one on the other card, and then I'm coming back soon with the finished cards. One more tip, if you've got little critters like this, they can hold something. You can cut a little slit into the hands there, in between the hands, and actually cut around corner here as well. So I can slide this in here a little bit, and I can glue this down on the back, and then it looks like the little mouse is holding this spool, and I think that's nicer than just putting it on top. Another tip, if you've got cheap foam tape like I have, I can't even remember where I bought this from, it's worth, after you've taken the release paper off, and mine's actually sometimes comes off in pieces, I can already hear that. This is just not good quality. Always use some liquid glue as well on the top. It gives you a bit of wiggle room as well when you set it down, so if it's not quite straight. So use either your collal glue or your quick grab glue, either is fine. It just gives you a few seconds to move it around, and it will make sure this still sticks down in a few weeks' time. I had a project the other day, I hadn't thought about this being cheap, and the embellishment had already fallen off, so that's well worth doing it. And if you want to invest in something a bit dearer, it's worth it as well. So next time I won't buy the cheap tape anymore. So 2 more tips from me. One is, with this mouse, I cut into the paw as I did with the other one with the spool, but I actually cut a bit of the paw here at the top, but it doesn't really matter. Just take a biro or another black pen and you just draw into it, and it looks like it's part of the stamp, and then you can't really see this anymore. And the other thing is, that was a second thought after I glued this one down and decided to put a foam pad in behind the mouse here. I realized I hadn't done this on either side, but you can always add some foam pads if you've got it like this, and I'll just show you. I've already done it on this side, and then I paused myself to show you. So you just cut it to size before you put it on, and I only wanted and only really needed behind the mouse here because that's likely to push down. And I'm going to release this. I'm going to put it on my pokey tool, just stick it on like that. Make sure I've taken the release paper off the other side off as well, and I just rest it on here, and then I can lift this up slightly, just slide it underneath in position where it's hidden, and can just push it down and take this out. I actually have got a bit sticking up, but it doesn't matter, I can just push this in like this, and then you've got a foam pad behind this. But obviously with the other ones, now that I remember, I put a foam pad on the top and then just some glue at the bottom, and I'll just glue these down and then I'll show you the 2 finished cards. Okay, these are my 2 finished cards. As a finishing touch, I have added my black gel pen to all the eyes. I always think that makes a difference, and I also added some clear Wing of Stella to all the coloured pieces, as in the dress and the ribbon and the little thumb, what do you call it? I've forgotten now. Never mind. Yeah, and the scissors here. So I think that's really nice. And yeah, one way to arrange your little critters. And this is the other one on the raised panels there with the pattern cardstock in the background. Yeah, I'm really pleased with these. So I'm going to take another photo of these. I'm going to put them in this thumbnail. And apologies again for any noise, especially if you are listening with your headphones. Liverpool battered Man United 7-0. So we had a lot of shouting going on in the pub downstairs, but I hope you didn't hear too much of that. And yeah, I'm going to post this later, and I'm going to see you soon with another video. If you like these 2 cards, you might want to give me a like, and if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that, and I'll see you soon.